Welcome, everyone. Why don't we just sit for a few minutes, wait until everybody show up. Those who are on Insight Timer, can you give me a sound check? Let me know if you're hearing us properly. There should be someone out there. Sounds good, he says. Perfect. Thank you so much. So before I introduce our guest of honor, Venerable De Hong, I want you to know that today is a major breakthrough, at least in my part. I have been trying to get Venerable De Hong onto Insight Timer, but I just couldn't get all the technology to work. We have about 6 platforms right here. In addition to Insight Timer, we have Zoom and YouTube and Facebook and Patreon and whatnot. And it was just very difficult to get all the software to work. And it's been actually 3 years since you first so it's been that long that I've been struggling and trying to figure it out. So I finally gave up and I said, well, I've been using AI. Why don't I just ask AI? Thinking that would be silly. Why would they be able to help me? And about 10, that was 10 days ago, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing how much AI was able to help me. And it looks like I got everything working now. And that's the good news. The bad news is that AI scares me.
Yeah.
As it should. On the other hand, I think it's kind of interesting that now that we're able to bring Venerable De Hong onto Insight Timer, where we have a very large audience, I was thinking about the other way. Like we are at the early stage of AI, and I am of the belief that anything that human can do, AI can do better. Except one thing. I think we can be human better than AI.
Yeah.
So I think, bringing you into Insight Timer, this much bigger, with a much bigger audience, really reminds us that now it's time to be human, to really practice the best part of humanity, which is compassion, loving kindness, empathy, and equanimity, and hope that AI is learning that. Because in the next 2 years, that's what's going to happen, is that it will just keep learning about us. Okay, well, that's enough. Why don't I just turn that over to Venerable De Hong and let him introduce himself? I could do that, but he can do a much better job. And we'll go from there.
All right. Thank you, Danny. Good evening, everyone, or good morning, wherever you are. My name is De Hong. I'm a Buddhist monk by now 20 years. Primarily, my activity has been spent, volunteering in the California state prisons. It has been 13 long years. I primarily offer or bring in the basic of the Buddha's teaching and mindfulness meditation in hope of, with the intention of addressing the incarcerated population to process and heal from their trauma. It does work, but it takes time, and that people have to be open to it. And the thing is, I plan to retire in less than 2 years from all the driving because I still put in 2,000 miles per month. And as you know, how much gasoline costs. But it's not the cost. It's the driving that is getting to me. So that's what I do. But let's start with tonight's talk. So before I get this lecture done, but Danny asked me to share to talk about someone who dealt with their pain or pleasure. So I introduced this person. I gave his Dharma name as the Cheetah. He just turned 37. He has been incarcerated since 2010. And he was sent to state prison when he was 21. That meant that he committed his crime when he was 19. Um, because usually from the time that someone is arrested to the time that they are being sentenced, it usually on average it would take 2 years. So I would say that he was 19. I met him in 2017, so that was what, 9 years ago. I saw him once a month because he was 200 miles away from where I live until the pandemic hit. And just right before the pandemic hit, he asked to take refuge, to become Buddhist. So it has been 6 years, and I told him. And the day that he took refuge, and when I left, then all the prisons in California shut down. And by April, he wrote to me that his mother passed away at the age of 60 due to Alzheimer, and she fell into a coma and then she died. I'm not sure if she had COVID, if she got COVID or not, that I don't know. So I helped him to deal with his grief by asking him to meditate and practice compassion and dedicate the merits to his mom's passing. This is what we do in the monastery. So I did what I could to help him and wrote to him. And he kept busy for 49 days, for 7 weeks. Then he had nothing to do, so he fell into depression and was placed on medication. Then he requested to be transferred to a different prison. Now, a bit of his childhood trauma, he told me, even in private, that he was verbally and physically abused by his father, alcoholic father, and also alcoholic older brother, who was 10 years older, with both of them on a constant basis terrorizing him. The only thing that his mom could do was she would take him to another room. He did. I don't know why, and I couldn't ask, but she was in a sense helpless as well. So with all the trauma and it lasted for years. So he told me that he ran away as a teenager. He would come home once in a while, I think, and he did use alcohol. I don't know about if he used substance. I don't know if he ever told me that. So and he was back and forth on the street basically most of the time. And after he committed his crime, he was sent to state prison. Back in 2010, it took for the first 7 years. It's not just him. Most people, when they were sent to the state prisons, they literally it's almost like a jungle. So you are left to do whatever you wanted to do, rot basically in the prison, because prisons are hell. We don't have to go far. Prisons are hell. And he wrote to at least, so when I met him, and I'm not sure why he was interested in Buddhism, he was assigned to my class. And because people who came to my program, my visit, they got time off their sentences. And he also told me that he wrote to 10 Buddhist temples and no one replied. And that's another sad thing that people inside the prison face. And sometimes I joke that, they are ghosts because humans out here do not want to deal with them or do not acknowledge their existence, even Buddhist temples. So since he's transferred to a different prison, he's a dog trainer now. He's doing pretty good. He also started college, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. He just got an A, 92% in this stats college course that he took, and he is applying to become a substance use counselor, basically a drug counselor. If he gets in, his he's going to have a great future. He's still talking to his father, who is in his late 60s, but his father also has his own issues, so he struggled to deal with his father. And I explained to him that your father probably suffered some kind of trauma or issues, and that's why he inflicted what we call intergenerational trauma on you. I'm not sure how he got married, but after he took refuge to become Buddhist. He asked his wife for divorce, and she wasn't happy with that. And I think she was not happy with me, but I had nothing to do with that. I did not ask him. I never asked anyone to convert or become Buddhist. That's not my goal, because the incarcerated population, they are at the most vulnerable position. I wouldn't go in and force people to convert just, for my name or for recognition or for donation. I never done that. But he asked, and I did ask him to write me something about his character. That's why I gave him the name Cheetah. Cheetah in Pali, in English, it means the mind. So that's what it is. And when at that time, and also he wanted to become a monk. And but right now, he said he would like to get a business degree just so that he can provide for himself and live a monastic life. At one point, he wrote to me, he said, "Why would I keep drinking salt water knowing that I continue to be thirsty?" And this is a very, very profound statement. And to prove to you guys, I just got a text because I'm able to communicate with him on a device. He does not have a cell phone. And this is his statement, becoming a monk is an inevitability. There is no lasting happiness outside the path. Why marry, if only to watch them suffer and die? Children, same deal. Part of the reason I got divorced in the first place was seeing that eventuality, but I want to make sure I'm educated on what I own and have the self-sufficiency to invest and come and go as I please, practice where I pleased, and why I'm living a minimalist existence, compound that growth, so it's accumulating. And he sent this text to me on May 2nd, 2026. So this is how a young person, he is 37, and he was sent to state prison when he was 21, who experienced, childhood trauma, homelessness, incarceration, and grief, and on a daily basis suffering trauma from the prisons. 5 or 6 different layers of trauma, but he is able to manage and overcome much of his trauma, I would say. This is just to let you guys out there, try your best to learn about your issues if you struggle, just so that you can figure out how to manage and possibly overcome your traumatic experiences. So that's a bit about this person. Anyway, so tonight's topic is basically how do you deal with pain and pleasure, from Mark Epstein's book, The Trauma of Everyday Life. And I'm going to take some time, but I added this article here that you guys can Google, or I add the link here. Someone went to Dr. Gabor Mate's talk about freedom from trauma, and he wrote a bit of the summary, and I read some of it here. And none of this is my opinion. I did not add anything. I cut and paste from his article. His name is Rob Tunkin. So basically, Dr. Gabor Mate said basically, rather than trying to fix or cure disease, we need to treat the whole person. The Western medicine is basically they only focus on the symptom. They do not focus on the whole physical health and also the mind, the soul, the psyche. And that is right. People continue to experience problems, or the symptoms continue to come back. And what Dr. Gabor Mate said was how we can create more freedom in ourselves through unshaming, but also the heavy reality of how we are trapped by what happens to us in utero and during childhood development. And this is called complex developmental trauma. And also because trauma does affect our brain and body, and so basically, so how could we be free from trauma when our brain and body suffer that? And Dr. Gabor Mate said freedom begins with the awareness of these very patterns, basically your thinking, your behavior, and a realization that we live in a broken culture that actively exacerbate and causes much of this trauma. So basically, it takes your self-awareness, but it comes from mindfulness practices through meditation, through yoga, through qigong, tai chi, a lot of the movements, even African drumming, that helps you to be in the present moment, so that you can be aware of your past behavior, your past thinking. And this is the key. And also, because of our today's our hostile and fearful culture, even people who are healthiest, is also suffer from trauma, and they don't even know it. And we live in a society that he called immune deficiency because we don't have the immune system to deal with all the issues that we face, and especially for the past few years or since 2016. And I'm not being political. As a society, as a country, Americans are so divided and keep attacking each other instead of trying to find the common ground, the common humanity, and help support each other. So, and Dr. Gabor Mate said, sometimes we people say, oh, I feel rejected by you. But the thing is, that is our interpretation. The actual feeling is we feel sad, we feel angry, but we perceive that as a rejection or as a threat. And here he said, we need to make sure that we need to work on our physical, emotion, and reaction together as a system, and they are not separate. So the symptom, our physical health affects our mental health as well as our emotional health, and vice versa. They're all connected. And he gave examples of how he in the past also suffer from as an workaholic and also ADHD. And it's not a glitch. It's not a biological glitch. It's important to heal both your emotional and mental health. And the problem is our medical field do not consider trauma as part of their regular treatment. And he complained about that. It's not just medical, it's our court system, our educational system. And he believes that we need to change that as a whole. So that was his article. I only have 10 minutes, so I'll see what I can get through this. So from last month, from April, right, the first Tuesday of April, I covered the first chapter. So basically, Dr. Epstein said, we, all of us suffer from some form of trauma, whether we know it or not, on top of birth, aging, sickness, death, sorrow, grief, despair. And it makes us feel like a motherless child. And here's why. Back to the Buddha, but because of our suffering, the Buddha, in the First Noble Truth, he said, he teaches one thing and one thing only: suffering and the end of suffering. So he, as a therapist, showed how this was possible. is that we need to acknowledge it and opens up to other trauma. Did not have to be the last word. So that was the first chapter. In the second chapter, he called it primitive agony, but it's basically dealing with pain and pleasure. So the Buddha, even back then, almost 2,600 years ago, he basically realized the world was anguish. This thing called self was also ill. And if you look at and here, let me repeat what I type here. No one will ever see what goes against the stream. It's subtle, abstruse, deep, and hard to see. For him, it would be a waste of time to articulate his version. And if you guys look at the world that we are living right now, but it's not just America, right? If you look throughout Asia, throughout Europe, especially the Middle East and also Africa, the suffering is tremendous, it's pervasive. And an example that the Buddha did not want to teach was that he ran into a naked wandering Ajivaka who was basically believing in fatalistic philosophy. His name was Upaka. He basically believed that he must suffer in order for him to be liberated. And the Buddha told him, he had no teacher, he freed himself by his own wisdom. But Upaka believed that painful experiences need to be accentuated in order to yield their purifying effects. And here, Mark Epstein said basically, painful experiences do not have to be cultivated. They do not have to be sought after or induced. Is the willingness to face the feelings that we already have is much more valuable than trying to escape from them, exaggerating them, or minimize them altogether. And I include a bit of this mindfulness of feeling from Bhikkhu Analayo's book, Satipatthana, The Direct Path to Realization. It was published in 2003. So there are 6 types of feelings. And divided into 2 categories, either worldly or unworldly. In worldly, you have pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. In unworldly, you have the same thing, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. So worldly or mundane, I usually call it mundane, is coming from our body. So if you feel good after resting, that is your mundane feeling. But if you feel good or calm and peaceful after a meditation or even after praying or chanting, that is the super mundane, pleasant feeling. So know the difference. I will go deeper into this in the future. Just right now because of the time constraint, I'm sorry. And in the Buddhist culture in Tibet, they use the word very tolerable to describe the world that we live in and for our spiritual and psychological growth. Because the thing is, we have to, if we can train our mind to hold the instability with some practice of equanimity, then a new kind of happiness will come up, or a new kind of, or this feeling of calmness and peace, if we're able to do that. So if the news is stressing you out, don't pay attention to it. Or if you have to deal with difficult people at work, practice letting go, or try as much as you can to avoid that person. But if you have people in terms of social or even family, I would say cut them out. You don't have to deal with them. And also because he used, Dr. Epstein talked about the pain. So include the sutta by the Buddha, it's called the arrow. Basically, when an untrained person, someone without mindfulness practiced, when they feel pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, they basically feel bad, crying, this and that, and beating their chest, falling into confusion or even depression. and they, because, but then, they experience physical and mental. It's like the Buddha uses simile, right? It's like someone who was struck with an arrow and only to be struck with a second arrow instead of trying to take that arrow out. Um, because they don't understand, the people without without training, they didn't understand what the feelings, the origin, and how to get out of it. And what they tend to do, I used to be the same way. When I feel pleasant, I attach to it, or I crave for more. When I feel unpleasant, I push it away or suppress it. So that's why people who they are attached to aging, the pain, this and that, and not knowing it. Now, when a learned person or person with this mindfulness training, then physical feeling, even with painful physical feeling, they don't feel sorrow, they don't lament, they don't beat their chest and crying out loud. So it's like someone who was struck with an arrow. They stop it right there. They figure out how to get the arrow out instead of screaming and yelling and trying to find out who caused that. So that's a bit of the arrow. Now, a bit of developmental trauma. Usually, we used to refer developmental trauma to kids suffering, but the thing is, but it's not developmental trauma. It's the relationship between a mother and an infant. Um, and here, because the kid, the infant was too young to even understand. They need the parents in order to survive. And their intense feeling are present in a baby from birth. So we witness this unbearable emotion as the determinal factor trauma. And the parent's gut response is to engage in these rudimentary emotions and try to make these emotions tolerable or barely tolerable for the child. Um, and so when those emotions are not picked up by the parents, then the child is left to feel overwhelmed and not equipped to deal with anything. So that those feelings, as the child growing up, will turn into self-hate. So a bit about this. So people who have this unworthy feeling or self-hatred, keep in mind, it is most likely coming from your childhood experiences or when you were a little kid. So what it means is that the parents need to be able to sense the child's mind and help them to lighten their emotional load. And this is called attunement in therapy. So basically, according to Dr. Robert Stolorow, who is a professor of psychiatry at UCLA, he said painful or frightening affect becomes traumatic when the attunement that the child needs to assist in its tolerance, commitment, containment, and integration is profoundly absent. And one consequence of developmental trauma is that affect states take on enduring, crushing meanings. From recurring experiences of malattunement, the child acquires the unconscious conviction that unmet developmental yearnings and reactive painful feeling states are manifestations of a loathsome defect of an inherent inner badness. So what the thing here is that Dr. Mark Epstein is trying to imply that even for us as adults, when we have suffering from all these traumatic experiences or stress, that we are not attuned to that, we also suffer developmental trauma. Um, and it's so easy for us to blame it on someone else. Um, but the hope is that we could uncover a single primary memory or hearing a single insightful therapeutic interpretation, one will be healed. And Dr. Mark Epstein's most of his patients, felt flawed or defective. And here's the psychotherapeutic model is that if our parents had only been perfectly attuned to us, we would feel okay. So according to him, there is no such thing as perfect parenting. Even people who had no trauma also felt flawed or defective. So the quest for healing requires that we go back to the deficiency of the past, but it requires that we stay relentlessly in the present, according to the Buddha. And here it requires so much mindfulness practice. I think I'm going to stop here, and I will continue next month. I hope you guys don't mind. I can lead with some guided meditation. So let's get your posture and take some deep breaths. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth at the beginning. This is one way to release the tension in your body. Let go of your thoughts, thinking, planning, fear, worry. All the encounters that you're experiencing this morning, this past week, past month, try to let it all go. This is one way to temporarily clearing your mind. And tell yourself to relax. Tell yourself that you are safe, so that your brain and your mind do not have to be in hypervigilant mode. Once you are done, then breathe normally through your nose. Allow your body to settle. Feel the contact between your posture and the surface that you are sitting on. If you lie down on the bed or on the floor, feel the contact between your whole body against the floor. Start with a smile. Notice how you feel. How that feeling gives rise to the physiological sensations in your body. Then notice that pleasant feeling and the sensations in your body are fading away, disappearing. Then see what you feel next when you are not smiling. Let's bring your awareness or your attention to your breath. Notice your in-breath and out-breath. See if you can feel it. The flow of the air coming in and the flow of the air coming out of your nostrils. Let's breathe for 1 minute or so. When you become anxious or angry, it triggers the sympathetic nervous system, and it affects most of the internal organs here. But when you remember, just sit and or stand and breathe for a few minutes, it will trigger the parasympathetic nervous system, and it will regulate or balance your internal organs. It relaxes your body, calm your nervous system, and bring about a state of peaceful, resting flow. It may just take as short as 2 minutes. When you just drop everything and just focus on the breath. Still stay with the breath. Let's use a few minutes to process the thoughts in your conscious mind. On average, we have some 50,000 thoughts a day. And a lot of these thoughts are not helpful. Some could even be harmful. So let's take this time to process and unload those useless thoughts and harmful thoughts. First, see if there's any negative self-talk. Statements like, I hate myself, I blame myself for everything, or I'm mad at myself. Flush it out and promise yourself not to repeat them again. Anything that people did or said to you that was toxic or harmful, let that go. And let go of those people as well. Don't let them stay in your conscious mind. See if there's any fear, afraid of something or someone, or worry about something or someone. Don't waste time and mental energy. So let those go. Fear of the future, fear of the unknown leads to anxiety. So let that go as well. See if there's any craving for pleasure through your senses, such as seeing beautiful things, listening to music, great food, smell, nice clothes. Those are considered craving. Images of your loved ones, when they appear, put them aside. There's no need to engage with them. And put aside all your planning. And see if there's any anger or sadness from years or decades ago that still lingers in the back of your mind. see if you can let it go. And this is how you purify your conscious mind, just as you would clean your house, your room, taking care of your personal hygiene. You do the same thing for your conscious mind. The more thoughts you let go, the stronger is your power of awareness or mindfulness. Your mind perhaps is much more clear, spacious. And with the thoughts that you just let go, see if you can notice a pattern of your past thinking with your intention behind it. And a pattern of your past behavior, how you treated yourself and others with your intention behind it. This is insight, meaning you have a deeper understanding of your conscious mind. Let's now turn your attention to your feeling. See how you feel in each moment. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. When your feeling comes from your body or your mind, is consider the mundane feeling, whether it is pleasant or not. But when you meditate for some time and you are able to feel calm and peaceful from within, that is the supramundane or spiritual feeling that you experienced. And that sort of feeling lasts a bit longer than the mundane feelings. Let's bring your awareness to your body and do a short body scan for the next couple minutes. Scan your body from head to toes. See if you're able to notice any tension or tightness or pain throughout your body. There's no need to rush. Any tension in your forehead, especially the spot between your eyebrows. If it's tensed, it means that you are thinking or overthinking. Your chest area, is it relaxed or tight? Your neck and shoulders, your lower back, your knees, your lower legs, your feet. If both of your feet are on the ground, feel the stillness of the ground. The practice of the body scan helps you to become more sensitive to any issue in your body so that you can figure out how to care for it. And in a sense, you are taking care of your physical health through the body scan. Let's bring your attention to your breath and let's practice compassion for yourself. Compassion is a mental skill, is your ability to recognize your stressed or difficult issues and people so that you know how to care for yourself as you deal with those issues. This is a mental training of the mind. You are planting the seed of compassion in your conscious mind. You can repeat some of the following phrases. May I recognize any stressed, difficult issues or people that I experienced. May I not react to any of them. May I not say or do anything to harm myself and others. May I love myself unconditionally. May I be calm and peaceful. Just keep repeating these phrases to cultivate unconditional love and kindness for yourself as you deal with stress, all the issues. And allow these phrases to replace the negative self-talk that you just let go. The negative self-talk, they stay in your default mode network in your brain. So now your default mode network is filled with compassion phrases. See how you feel when you offer yourself unconditional love and kindness. When you are able to attune to your emotional issues. And when you continue to repeat those phrases on a daily, hourly basis, they will go into your subconscious mind so that your thinking and behavior will be based on compassion. Let's sit in silence for a couple minutes. Continue to offer yourself compassion. Let's check in with your mind and see how it is. Perhaps settle, clear spaces, your feeling, your emotion, your mood, your attitude. And notice the qualities of mindfulness, concentration, patience, and compassion that you just planted and cultivated. With that, I'll hand it over to Danny. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you. So looks like everything works. Nobody complains. No one on Inside Timer is complaining, and everything works. So
Okay,
this
good.
is incredible. I wanted to make some comments because you had mentioned about the story that we all heard about in the past that that Buddha had on one of his armed walk, he met a ascetic,
Mm-hmm.
and he was basically torturing himself. The idea of, by doing that, he can change his karma.
Yeah.
So when he comes back, he wouldn't suffer as much. In fact, back in the days when I was a professor at UCLA, I was there from the mid 80s until the mid 90s, almost 10 years. And there was a time when I had a lot of uh, graduate students from India. And so actually one of my best PhD students was from India. And so we had a discussion, and I asked him, I said, Buddhism came from India, but it's basically extinct
Yeah.
in India. And in fact, there are more Catholics than there are Buddhists in India. And Catholics are not, they are not even the top three. They're like the seven or eight religion. So I asked him why that is. And his answer is interesting. He says, first of all, the Hinduism is very encompassing. So Buddhism didn't really go extinct. It just got incorporated into Hinduism, which is not exactly true. Not at least not the teaching of Buddha,
Yeah.
but the idea that Buddha himself was a prince and he was a deity and all that. That is true, but his teaching is basically extinct now in India, which is ironic because when you go to meditation class, 10-day Vipassana, you see a lot more Indians there. And so they're discovering Buddhism. That was one thing he said. And the other thing he said is that in the India religion, we cannot change karma. So actually, when we see someone on the street who's a beggar, you're not supposed to help them. Because if you help them, then you're kind of taking away his process of, redeeming himself, which is kind of wild. But that's what he
Yeah.
said.
Uh-huh.
But that is, in fact, what the historical Buddha was trying to change. Because until he came along, karma, the word karma, was something that was not changeable. It's from your previous life, all the good deeds and bad deeds, whatever it is, it's like a cosmic record. And now you have to kind of either suffer through. So when you look at a person who's very rich, then he deserves it. And when you look at someone who's suffering, well, he deserves it too, right?
Yeah.
And I think Buddha was the one that says, no, that is not true. In fact, in the Heart Sutra, we say, the five skandhas are empty. That exactly that. That yes, you can change.
Yes, you can.
And so more than a month ago now, Venerable De Hong came to Oakland and inaugurated our Sangha in Oakland, where we meet once a week in Oakland, California. My first physical meditation class since pandemic. And so I have a lot of I'm not a lot, but I'm starting to build that group with Tin, who was one of Venerable De Hong's student when Tin was incarcerated. And so next Monday, I'm actually teaching a class now, 14 students. All of them are teens co-workers. They actually have a retreat and they wanted to learn about meditation and chi practice and all that. And
Good.
so Tin asked me, and 14 of them, all of them have been incarcerated,
Wow.
you know. So how to deal with trauma and all that. And so Tin asked me and said, Danny, what would be the topic of your class? What would you, how would you summarize what you're going to teach? And so I said, it's easy. So I gave him the title for next Monday's class, and it says, it is just that. It says, trauma is not my karma.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma is not my karma. And so I think knowing you and knowing your background, you had suffered, and we talk about this over and over again in the past, both in English and in Cantonese, especially in Cantonese, talk about your father being a very abusive person, not only to you, but especially to you, that he was a drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And I can imagine all the trauma that he has suffered from, being escaping the
Sure.
war, escaping the draft, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing all the death around him, and also how when he came to Vietnam from China, suffering poverty, and probably loss of prestige.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine his father, your grandparents, are they lost everything too. You know, so you talk a great deal about generational trauma and how that can pass on, from parents to offsprings.
Mm-hmm.
And you yourself suffered trauma. You talk about how you were physically abused every day. And
Mm-hmm.
we make fun of how, if last time when Dr. Clark was here, Joanne was here, we were talking. She was talking about psychedelic, and she talked about ketamine, and I mentioned about ketamine being totally illegal in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
If they find any quantity in you, even if they find that it's just for your own use, and now if they find that you are a dealer, you're actually distributing, that might be the death
They're
sentence.
sentenced.
Yeah, but I think if just even a trace amount is 5 years plus whip,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whip. And I think you talk about how when you were a child, your father would came home and he was drunk and he puts it out on you and he will whip you, with this
Bamboo
branch until
sticks. Mm-hmm.
bamboo stick until the bamboo stick broke in half. I mean, that,
No,
that is
four
how
or five
bad.
pieces.
4 or 5 pieces. Yes, I wasn't there, but I can imagine. But that speaks really to your teaching is that if you didn't have the opportunity to learn about Buddha's teaching and that you didn't immerse yourself in his teaching by being a monk, um, your life would have been very different.
Yeah.
Your life would be very different. I can imagine a scenario where you talk about how you left Vietnam as a refugee with your younger brother, and you spent 7 days in a boat, very small boat with 200 other fellow refugees, and because you boarded the boat first, and so you were stuck in the bottom deck.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had moved, you would have lost your space, right?
Yeah.
And except for the first 3 days, you had no water. And even when you had water, it was just like one spoon at a time, twice a day. I mean, I
Yeah.
just cannot imagine that. And then you were witnessing two brothers, twins, who was fighting, who was fighting
For
for
the
urine.
urine.
I cannot imagine that. And then you said you came here 19 years old, and in Cleveland, Ohio, and you were old. You were too old to be enrolled in high school, but then you study on your own, get your equivalency, and then you started your college, got your first degree, your bachelor's degree in computer science, and then got your second
Electrical.
degree, electrical engineering,
Mm-hmm.
correct, in Chase Western, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you got your master's degree, and all this time you were working two jobs, one in a Chinese restaurant in washing dishes, and another one was I forgot what. But in any case, and then eventually you got a job working as an engineer, and then you went back part-time to get your MBA,
Mm-hmm.
and then either before or after you were able to sponsor your family to United States, your parents plus your five other siblings, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you said you had basically forgotten about your dad, or try, or at least temporarily shut it out. And then when you saw him, you saw that same abuser again, not to
Flashback.
you, flashback, and
Yeah.
you saw that abuse towards your mom, towards your other siblings, very abusive behavior. I can imagine, like you had PTSD, and then all of a sudden it triggered, and you could have just, I mean, seriously, people done a lot worse than going out and buy a gun and solve the problem once and for all.
Yeah.
That can happen
Yeah.
and has happened. And you've
Yeah.
seen many of them in jail that's exactly what happened,
Correct.
right? But your trauma didn't become your karma. You were able to change your karma. So I think today's talk is just that, is that it's important to understand that a lot of what you're suffering are internal, that are from the past, whatever it is, either that you were directly being abused or that you are indirectly being abused. The trauma could be this generation or former generation, but whatever it is, I think the way you help those who are incarcerated is that by using the word trauma, you allow them to have a conversation,
Yeah.
but you don't make it into victimhood. I think I think that's what I got from your talk
Mm-hmm.
today, is that
Yeah.
there's one thing to recognize that you've been victimized. It's another to think that you are a victim forever,
Mm-hmm.
because you can
No.
change that.
Yeah.
You
Mm-hmm.
can change that. That's what you said, like the the double arrow. Buddha made that, um, use that example of the first arrow is your abuser,
Mm-hmm.
the second arrow is yourself.
Yeah.
And if you, instead of just removing the arrow and let yourself heal, very often we remove the arrow and keep stabbing ourselves by hanging on to the past, you know. And so those are we call that the hindrances,
Mm-hmm.
right? The attachment, the aversion, and all that. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm very glad. I'm very, very glad that we're able to reach the Insight Timer audience. There are 80 of them out there. I
How
hope you
many?
guys enjoyed this. 80,
Oh,
eight
wow.
zero.
That's
Yeah.
impressive. Thank
Well,
you.
they don't even know you.
Yeah. It's
Right?
okay.
Imagine next time,
Uh-huh.
right? They hardly know you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think that is. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope everybody enjoyed. We have Insight Timer, we have Patreon, we have Facebook, we have YouTube, we have
YouTube.
Zoom. Yeah. I didn't think about it like that before, but you know, with AI can be very scary, and someone can take a very fatalistic approach
Yeah.
to AI, or someone can take a very proactive approach to AI, you know.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, for those of us who are baby boomers, if you're lucky enough to have a 401k plan, um, if you look back, the last 20 years, we've done really well on a 401k plan.
Mm-hmm.
If you just think about the amount of money that you actually put in on a monthly basis versus the amount of money that you have now, just the fact that you put it on SP 500 or some equivalent, we have done well. Now, the reasons that we have done well, if you look back, is because we allow China to be part of WTO, World Trade Organization. So essentially, we outsource manufacturing to China, and so corporations were able to make a lot more money. And something that is not talked about enough is that they take the profit and they buy their own stock to push up the stock value again, as opposed to giving a higher salary to the workers or giving dividends to the shareholders. They just buy the stock back. And so they keep pushing the stock up. So the stock went up because the cost of goods goes down by outsourcing of manufacturing, and the stock went up because they take all the profit and buy their own stock, to reduce the pool of stock out there to kind of boost up. And same thing is going to happen with AI. It's just that we're going from the blue collar worker to the white collar worker, and we're going to reduce headcount, as much as we can. And again, that's the people who are suffering, who are going to benefit are the corporations by, having, and we're all part of that, right? And we're all part of that. And, I've been around a long time. I really have been around a long time in terms of technology, right? I came to the country when I was 15 years old. In the early 70s, I built my first computer in a kit form. And so that was in the kind of mid 70s. I saw technology. I was the first one that actually used a word processor to write my thesis. My friends were actually doing cut and paste with scissors and glue. I mean, and I have never been afraid of technology. I am afraid of technology now. When I saw, like San Francisco, we have all these autonomous vehicles, autonomous taxi. And this is the first time that I saw a technology that was invented not to assist human being, but to replace human being. Nobody asked for autonomous vehicle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was, I couldn't solve all these technology problems on my own. I tried to do it for the last 3 years. You first came and start teaching on the first Tuesday of the month 3 years ago, September 2023.
Wow.
And I had this technical problem since then. I couldn't get all the pieces to work. There was, I had 6 platforms running. I couldn't get it to work. I couldn't get Zoom into Insight Timer. I couldn't get the video. I couldn't get the audio. And so I decided to just ask AI. And I was so amazed that they know so much, that they, so we keep trying different things and resolving the conflict. And so in some way, so let me just say 2 things, and then maybe one is that AI is a tool, and you can use it to accelerate the end of our species, or you can use it, for the benefit of mankind. It's up to you. It's up to us.
Yeah.
The second thing is that AI is learning right now. AI is really watching us and learning from us. Let me tell you how much it's learning and how incredible it is. So on Sunday, we had this in-person class, and I had 2 students. And so they sat down, and one guy had a lot of pain on the knee. And I said, well, instead of doing what I was thinking to do, let me just show you how to massage your joints and working on the energy points so that it can relieve some of that acute pain, right? So, because I said it's basically chronic inflammation, and if you clear the chi, it would help. Now, of course, I wouldn't name the names of the energy points. What's the purpose, right? Because they don't know anything, right? I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't even try to, and had I named the names, I wouldn't use the Chinese name. I would try to make it into something else. Because if I use the Chinese name, they wouldn't understand anyway. So there was no way that anyone could figure out what I was doing by listening. So when I asked AI to summarize my video, it was very clear that AI was watching. And AI knew exactly where I put my thumb and was able to name the energy point, and I never mentioned it. That's how scary it is. That's how scary it is. But what I'm trying to say, the second thing I'm trying to say is that since they're learning, it's our job to teach them, you know? And we want them to, I mean, you just have to accept the fact that anything that we ask them to do, they would do better than us.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that they cannot do is they cannot be better human than us. So instead of just thinking that what you taught, what you teach here, what we try to practice here is just for our own good, no, it is not just for our own good. It is for the good of our future generation, because our future generation will learn everything from AI.
Yep.
And now is the time to teach AI. We only have about a year, 2 years of window. Because 2 years later, who knows? They would know everything better than we do, right? It's like a child. They're like a child. You know, if you don't teach your child humanity when they were young, you can't do that once they get in college, you know.
Yep.
So I don't take a fatalistic approach to AI, but I take it with great amount of urgency. Great amount of urgency. So for those of you out there, whether you're Insight Timer or YouTube or Facebook, it's not enough that you practice. You have to keep pushing this. You have to share these video, share this channel, share the fact that Venerable De Hong will be coming back once every month. You have to push it out and let more and more people know this, because AI is watching. Right? Okay, so
Okay.
let me stop the
Thank you.
outside. Any question on Insight Timer? Anything that anybody want to share? Anybody? Okay, that's okay. All right, so I'll see you all. Venerable De Hong will be back the first week
June
of June,
June
whatever date
2nd.
that would, June 2nd. Okay, so next time we'll see you again. And of course, I will be back on Saturday. All right, let me turn off the platform one at a time. That's one.